production staff had a little bit better counting this time.
Was she counting over there?
You know, and the number one, she said, go.
You know, that's what people don't see is our production staff and how rude they are to us at times.
Yes. What they don't know is I hit a camera and the camera's on them right now.
And our production staff is all ladies.
Smile, ladies.
Which means we're probably in good hands, actually, if you think about it.
Keeping us in line. Can you imagine this without supervision?
Yes.
Yes.
It makes me happy. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Well, welcome back to Giving Back TV podcast. Once again, Colin Tordale, Aaron Throckmorton. Today, we're going to talk to you about our recent trip to Africa, South Africa.
South Africa. We one of our favorite places.
Yes, it is.
We speak about it a lot on the podcast and actually film a lot of TV shows there. But we were going with a very good friend of mine, a good client, and he was going to try and complete his Dangerous 7 on this trip.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that like several months ago and that you're going. And then I think 2 months before your trip, I'm like, hey, I can go too.
Yeah, because we had the camp completely shut down.
Yeah.
It was just us there. And so, yeah, it was a perfect time for you to go over, experience some hunts that we got to experience some hunts together for the first time.
Yes.
We hadn't even done before. So that was fun. But yeah, we had some crazy moments over there with that.
Yes, we did. So what was our first animal we went after was Rhino.
Well, it was the rhino. And man, that is controversial. You know, and when I was telling people about it, everybody said, well, he's going to dart it, right? He's going to dart it. He's going to, you know. And I said, no, he's going to kill the rhino, you know, and that's exactly what he did. But let me back up a little bit because the rhino is so misunderstood. There's two rhinos, you know, you have your white rhino and your black rhino, and the white rhino population is actually thriving. You know, I was talking with you and Mike and Tino about it. In 1968, they made rhino hunting legal in South Africa. And at that time, there was 1,800 rhinos. You know, over the 50 years or whatever since they've been hunting, now there's over 18,000 white rhino. And that's just because hunters are paying for that. The money's going back into breeding programs, conservation programs. And so we're trying to help these animals thrive. But people get stuck on the fact that you killed a rhino.
Yes.
So, and we kind of experienced that even over there with that game scout that was with us. I don't know, were you there when he was so upset?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was different.
Yeah, that game scout, he was head of security for all the rhinos on this property.
Yes.
And he didn't like the idea of killing one.
He didn't. And it was, I think they have over, 300 rhinos.
Yeah.
Something like that. And after the rhino was down, I was visiting with him and I said, well, man, a lot of money got spent, you know, by my hunter, and that gets to go right back into the ranch and back into the breeding program. He doesn't think like that. Mm-hmm. He was just looking at this rhino that had just been killed, and he couldn't wrap his mind around the fact that it was a good thing.
Right.
You know, and part of me was like, wow, this guy's really invested in his job.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought that was kind of cool. But that's the mentality of a lot of people that, well, there's one less rhino in the world. And I'm like, right. But that money that was spent, now 4 or 5 rhinos are going to be protected because of that. So it's 1 step back, 4 steps forward. And that's what we have to try and educate people about.
And this one rhino was a very specific rhino because we saw several that day. We were within less than 40 yards of several of them.
Yes.
And nope, no shooter, no shooter, no shooter. They were after a very specific one because he was old.
He was old. He was past his breeding prime. He wasn't breeding anymore. And I mean, like we said, you can either hunt that rhino and raise money for conservation, or he can die by natural causes.
Yes.
You know, and then the jackals can eat him and the lions or whatever. But this way, I mean, the meat, they took all the meat.
Yes.
That processor came, and we actually have video of it. They cut that animal up. I mean, they cut it for the trophy part as well, but they cut it up for the meat. You know,
as a butcher would.
As a butcher would. Mm-hmm. And so that butcher came and got all of that meat. And so he was happy to get it too.
Absolutely.
You know, so there was a lot of positives about that hunt. But I know when the episode comes out, I know we're going to have to buckle up because people are going to attack us. But like we said, whether it's a TV show or the podcast, we're not going to shy away from anything just because it's controversial. If it's legal and it helps conservation, we're going to talk about it. And
another person we had on the hunt with us was the game warden for that province.
Yes. The game warden had to be there, had to make sure all the paperwork was correct, had to make sure the hunt was done ethically. I mean, every I dotted, every T crossed. He had to make sure everything was done.
Yeah, before we even went into the property, we must have spent a half hour going through the paperwork. He was verifying passports, everything else to make sure the names on the permit matched the passport and everything was spot on, especially after the kill. When they were cutting for the butcher, he took that horn, measured every inch of that horn.
He did.
Every inch. And he didn't leave his sight.
It didn't. And I mean, he measured it, and I want to say they marked it as well.
They did.
You know, so they can keep track of that horn because, I mean, even in the group we had, I don't know how many people were there at that time, 20 people.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody could snag that horn as well.
Absolutely.
You know, because, I mean, the ivory trade is still alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that we're trying to combat with some of this money raised is to fight these poachers. And even our game scout that was with us, or the ranch manager, you know, that gun that he had, it wasn't for a rhino charge. It was for people.
It was for people.
It was for people. And, you know, they shoot on command there. And so money from this hunt probably goes to keep his job.
Absolutely.
He doesn't even realize that. But there was a lot of good things there. So that was, you know, Mike, my client. I was lucky enough to meet him actually via email. He did a leopard hunt with me. And then after that, he called and said, look, I want to do hippo, buffalo, and elephant. So we did that together. Then he called and he goes, hey, let's just get the Dangerous 7. So, you know, after the rhino hunt, then we went back to the ranch and got the crocodile.
Yes.
I want to say, did we get the crocodile before the lion or after? I can't
Before.
remember. It was before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we had to wait to hunt the lion because the game warden had to be there on the hunt again for the lions.
Yes, to make sure the lion was hunted ethically with paperwork is in order, all that. Yes, he had to be there for that.
And that's another controversial hunt, the lion.
is.
You know, we get attacked about that all the time. And the one story everybody goes back to is that dentist that shot that lion by Kruger Park. You know, and the hunt itself, this lion came out of Kruger Park, which, I mean, there's no hunting in Kruger Park. The lion came out of the park. This hunter killed the lion. The only problem was the outfitter did not have a permit for that area. But he didn't go into the park and kill the lion. But the antis jumped all over it. So they shut hunting down in the region. Lion population exploded. The government had to go cull 200 lions where they could have sold those hunts and raised millions of dollars.
Absolutely. And just clarification, this dentist did not know that it was a precious Cecil lion that everybody loved.
He didn't know that it had a name tag. Yes.
Not a clue.
And the lion did actually have a collar. But, I mean, you know, we've now hunted lions. You're not going to see a collar around them. I mean, that mane's going to cover it up. The outfitter at the time actually cut the collar off and tried to hide it. Yeah. So the outfitter definitely was unethical, but the hunter didn't do anything wrong. And so now in South Africa, you can't even import lions into the United States.
Right.
You know, there are case-by-case basis. I think 2 or 3 a year maybe. But for the most part, lion hunting, you get a picture.
Yep.
And that's it. And that's because most of them are farm raised. But we'll go into this. I'll let you talk about it. Farm raised versus canned hunting. People think they're the same, and they're
not.
The farthest thing from the truth.
So ours, farm raised,
Yep.
They are born naturally there. They are not bottle fed. They're fed by mother. Yes, they are supplement fed by humans in huge enclosures. I mean, we're not talking like zoo size enclosures. No. We're talking a few acres per enclosure for these lions, and not a whole bunch of lions, like 2, 3 maybe tops in there. But they are turned loose on thousands of acres.
Yes.
We put miles on walking, trying to track these things down.
Oh, yeah. People think that if you let them out, you're just going to go shoot them. But what they don't realize is lions are turned out 30 days prior to you getting there.
Yep.
They then get acclimated to kill their own game. And let's be honest, these lions have seen humans. They're not afraid of humans.
They are not.
Wild lions are going to run. These guys are going to stand their ground.
They do. I mean, we walked up on 2 of them within 25 yards.
It was crazy. And like you said, the miles we walked to even get to that point.
Yes.
I want to say that for every lion hunt we did, it was 5 to 7 miles. sometimes we'd hunt them in the morning, couldn't find them, go back in the afternoon. But like you said, we walked up on I was able to get the male that day, and Mike shot a female, and they were on a kill, and they were just, I mean, they didn't charge, but you didn't know it because they're staring at you. And we were lucky enough to be able to get those lions. But yeah, they did not run.
They did not run at all.
They did not run at all. Yours ran a little bit. I wouldn't say ran, but he
kept going.
He got out of our way.
We'd bump him. He kept going.
Yeah.
Until he had enough. Then he just laid down and stared at us.
He did. What was that? 40 yards, maybe?
Yeah.
That was crazy because I asked Tino about that too. And I said, why is he just laying there? I kind of whispered and he goes, he's waiting for us to make a move and then he's coming.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sitting there with the camera.
Right.
Going, I hope boys don't miss.
I was looking through the scope and you could see his ears kind of laid back at times and the tail twitching. Like he's had enough of us following him.
Yeah. Oh, he did. But just with this lion hunt too, these lions, like you say, they are farm or ranch raised, whatever you want to call it. But the money that you and I and my client spend, that's going to go back into breeding more lions, which is going to hopefully raise more money and is going to, go into more conservation programs. And if more if more outfitters did it the right way, it wouldn't have the stigma. Because years ago, I watched videos of outfitters tranquilizing lions, opening the gate to their 1 acre enclosure. The lion would go out and just lay down. Now, lions are lazy anyway.
Yes.
But when they're drugged up, they're going to go lay down by that tree. And I've watched hunters walk up with a bow and arrow and shoot them. Yeah. And that's not ethical. I mean, that happened. They let the lion out the morning the client got there. And so that's what caused all the problems. So if we can talk about this, we're going to take some chinks in the armor. But if we tell the real story, then people can actually hear why it's a benefit to hunt these lions. And it's not canned hunting. That's what we have to get across.
It is not. I mean, we're on day 4.
Yeah.
When we got mine.
Yep. We hunted lions 4 days.
4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we, dragged the road so the next time we drive, we could see fresh tracks. We set up a tree in a road in an area that we thought he was at, and we sat behind that thing for the evening until dusk. And that's when he stepped out, and we're like, oh, crap.
You remember that?
Yes.
That was insane. I'll never forget that image.
Tino's like, hey, let's go get him. What? So we did. We walked a good 50 yards toward him, and then he walked by again and just stared at us.
Yeah.
And what was he, about 75 yards away at that time?
Yep.
And then he walked off again into the brush, and Tina was like, it's getting a little dark. I'm like, yeah, it's getting a little dark.
Let's back out. It's just they're so you just never know how they're going to react. Yeah. And so I'm glad that we kind of pulled out that night because I was filming going, oh boy, this could be bad.
And next morning we went back in the same spot and went and checked tracks. And it's a good thing we pulled out because there was a carcass right there.
Yes. So he was on a carcass, which means he's going to protect that kill. Yeah. And so he probably, we were lucky mine didn't charge, but mine was, I want to say it was mid-morning.
Yeah.
And so, but yours was right at getting dark. And so he was going to be a little bit fired up. Mine were probably starting to become a little bit lazy during the day. So we got
getting
lucky.
Warmer. Yeah.
It was, but no, that was a good trip all the way around. And like we said, my client, Mike, he's 100% trophy hunter. But he's 100% meat eater too. So he eats everything he kills. And we had to eat some of the rhino.
Yes.
While we were in camp. We ate everything that he kills, he wants to eat. But, like Mike was saying, he's hunted the dangerous 7 now. He's lucky enough to take all 7. He said he spent over $225,000. And he said that not to brag about it, but just to tell people, look, half of that money went back into conservation, breeding programs, and anti-poaching programs. So he is one guy that's truly making a difference for wildlife through trophy hunting.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad we went to Africa. It was a fantastic trip. Got to hang out with some of our best friends, got to see the kids, and got to have a lot of laughs.
Yeah, we went to the school again.
And I don't know if you noticed, Jeff this trip was on fire.
Oh, boy, yes.
He was cracking jokes and pulling pranks every day.
Every day.
And I don't know if it was just because there wasn't many in camp, but it was actually pretty fun.
And Jeff is one of the trackers that we've got to know pretty well, and he was on fire.
He's the one that took the brunt of the buffalo.
Yes, buffalo soldiers.
He were buffalo soldiers. So, but no, that was what an awesome trip. What an amazing trip. Just, to be there, like you said, I think the last 2 days, you and I didn't even hunt.
No.
We drove around in the back of the rig, just taking pictures and just spending time there. But to be a part of this filming, and I'm looking forward to these shows coming out because I think they're really going to help educate people on, like you say, our last podcast, trophy hunting and the money raised. But I just think there's so much misinformation. We can set the narrative the right way.
Absolutely.
So, no, it was cool. I'm glad you guys tuned in today. I hope we didn't bore you with our Africa story. But
if you want to hear more details about our story, just hit us up.
Yeah.
We love talking about this stuff.
And if you guys are looking to hunt the Dangerous 7, I will agree some of it is very expensive. Some of it is not.
Yes.
You would be surprised that a lot of animals in the Dangerous 7 are very cost effective. So reach out to us. We can give you quotes on that, and we'll help you get over to Africa.
You bet. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye. If any of you want to go on any of these hunts or trips around the world that we talk about on this podcast, True Flight Adventures can help you with every step of the way. Get a hold of us either by calling or emailing, and we can get you on that trip of a lifetime.
Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to hear more of our stories and commentary, or something to sleep to, be sure to follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcast. If you enjoy watching us ramble on, then subscribe on YouTube or Carbon TV. Until next time on Giving Back TV Podcast.